Hello,
Yeah.
I think we're live. I think this is working. Let me see. We had some technical stuff. So let me just check. I'll refresh my page. La la. Yes, it is. Okay. So, hello, everyone. Welcome to Money, Sex, and God. This is the place where we talk about all things taboo, the elephants in the room that we don't want to talk about, and also new conscious shifts around all three areas of money, sex, and God itself. I am just want to remind everyone that's popping on that we have the biggest online event on sexuality and spirituality happening next Monday on the 25th at 2 p.m. Eastern. I will post the link when I'm done with this interview. It's called Fuck Me Open to God. Those are your words, not mine. And we're going to be doing that interactive online webinar. There's 10 spots left. It's completely free. So I will post the link after this interview. And in the meantime, I would love for you to stay on, watch, say hi, tell us where you're watching from, tell us what you're excited to hear about and how this topic already relates to your life, so that we can really make this a beautifully interactive discussion. I'm super excited to intro my guest today. This is someone that I really caught my eye through her vibration that she's living and leading in, through her Facebook posts and the brilliance that she is really putting out into the world. So this guest that I'm bringing on is someone who helps leaders create sustainable change, right? Through this new consciousness that's really needed in order to change the planet. And I really appreciate that work because it's not easy work. And so I see already the courage and the bravery in this woman's leadership. So without further ado, I would love to turn the mic over to our amazing guest for today, Susan Anna Nijsingh. Welcome to Money, Sex, and God. Thank you so much for jumping on. Tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you fell upon this topic of new consciousness.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm really excited about this. I had the same feeling with you when I saw your post. It was like, wow, boom, like another powerhouse of a woman here to bring some shift and change into this world. And I'm really grateful and to be in your field and to, experience more people that are bringing this work into the world.
Yeah.
And just to answer your question, like, honestly, I don't always know how I come to do the things that I do. Like the other day, I was seriously talking to my girlfriends. I was like, people seem to assume that I make rational decisions about everything, and that is not true at all.
Yeah, no. Yeah, people don't like
really
that answer though, but you're right. But
No.
people are not going to like that answer. Like watching
No.
this, they're going to be like, "But give me the step by step. I need to know how."
Exactly.
But the truth of the matter is, it's about what allows you to not have to make rational decisions. What do you do to get to that space?
That is really the connection to, well, God or consciousness or flow or life or nature, whatever you want to call it, right? It's like the other day someone was looking at my resume, like and going step by step, like asking me like, okay, why did you do this, and why did you do that, and why did you do that? And the only thing that I was like, well, that was because of that synchronicity, that was because I met that person, that was because God told me to do that. Like that is really the flow that like I seem to live my life by. It's not generally the way that we're being taught to live our lives. It's really just, for me, it's like looking back, like all the dots are falling into place. Like for me, now that I look back on my life, I'm like, oh, that's why I had to do that. So now I'm in this place. So now this is coming back together with that. And it's all becoming this big puzzle, and all the puzzle pieces are falling into place. But when you're in it, you don't really know. Like it's constantly jumping into the unknown. And it took some courage and bravery to choose that path, because that's not generally a path that a lot of people take, and it's a scary path to trust the unknown. But it's, for me, there's no other path anymore. The other one just seems to be too stressful. And it's also what we're speaking about, like if we want to live this new consciousness, we want to like bring this new way of living into the world, like it is really about deeply connecting to yourself and deeply connecting to God. And through that, like being surprised by the miracles that are coming into your life. that's really what it is.
Mm.
So if we're speaking about a new consciousness, it's really just bringing miracles into your life.
So let's backtrack a little bit to, I've been thinking about this recently, of what allows me to surrender so deeply into the unknown. And I see a lot of people that so badly want to. They want to, because the life that they've built up, this conditioned way of existence, isn't fitting within themselves anymore, right? So what allows you to let go into that and to trust that? Was there a decision that was made, or was there a moment in your life when you had that shift, or do you have a tool that you used? Like what gave you that ability to go, you know what, I'm just gonna lean in and see what happens?
I think this is actually going back to the topic that we discussed, that God is in the pain. Like, I was not consciously deciding to go on this path. I got pushed just by so many other people. Like, we got pushed to the edge, and I was still holding on. I was still holding on to this attachment and grabbing on, trying to grab onto relationship, a job, or a partner, or a family, or trying to grab on until the pain became too much. And in that pain, by going through that pain, there was a moment where I was just so clear, like, because of the pain, I decided is a big word, but I had no other choice but to let go. And in that moment, when you go through the pain and you let go, then there's like this whole vast peace and surrender and love that is underneath that. And for me, the pain has been the door. The pain has been the door to God, to living life from that place. And so, there's not really been a tool necessarily, but to be able to sit with whatever it is that is pushing you until it is pushing you over the edge into the unknown. I have honestly had moments where I was like, no, God, I don't want to. But usually those moments were the moments when the deepest shifts have happened. So, yeah.
Because what would be the opposite of that, right? Like, I'm thinking of the people in the world that hit pain and then run from it, right?
Yeah.
Or there's also some people that know this. They've heard this. They've heard leaders talk about and teachers talk about this, and so they seek pain. Right? Right? And I see you as a very happy, light like human. I don't think you're necessarily sitting in your processing. So can we make a clarification between that for our audience here? This feels really crucial.
For sure. Yeah. I actually do not believe necessarily in doing shadow work for the sake of shadow work. Like, don't go fucking looking for your shadows. It's all about the light. So I don't believe in going through the pain over and over and over again, because that is also just creating an addiction, right? In your system, your body can also get addicted to these emotions of pain. So I don't necessarily believe that you need to have a life of pain in order to reach God or nirvana or whatever. Like, no, hell no. Like, there's definitely a different way. I'm just saying that for me, it has been an absolutely amazing tool, but you need to be aware. And also be willing to experience who you are without the pain. And this is actually a really interesting thing, because so many people are actually not willing to let go of their own suffering.
Boom. Tell us more about that. Go into that, because that feels really crucial. Yeah.
Because so many times I've had so many clients that actually, like, at a certain point, I was like, yeah, well, you could drop this story. You could drop the pain here. Like, we do have the tools. I think you and I, we both have the tools to help people drop the pain instantly. Like, it's not anymore like a years and years of therapy and processing. It can be dropped instantly once you know how to deal with it. But a lot of people are actually not, like, they don't know who they are without their pain. They don't know who they are without their story. And so they cling onto it. So when it becomes like a clinging onto the pain thing, that is exactly the thing that is the opposite of the surrender that I was talking about earlier. Because then it just becomes another attachment. And the attachment is then to the pain itself, which I don't think is necessary in life. necessarily.
And how can you, so let's say, like, take us through your experience with pain. So I'm assuming that in general, you remain pretty non-attached. You remain kind of in a non-dual state. You remain in that higher consciousness. What happens when pain or suffering comes into your awareness? What do you do with that? How do you maneuver through that?
So like recently I had a very, painful experience, a heartbreak, right? That's not a very generally like a thing that I'm like, woohoo.
Right.
In the end, of course, heartbreak can bring a lot of release and soothing and everything, but you kind of like that initial pain when, your heart literally feels broken. That is not something that, that is a painful experience. But what I did is really like, I noticed within myself, I noticed all the attachments that I had to numbing it, to running away from it, to like really being very subtle, because I wanted to immediately numb it. I wanted to immediately run away from it, wanted to not deal with it. And then little by little, okay, sit down, breathe. You can do this. You can go through this. You can go through this. And then little by little going through, okay, what is the belief? What am I apparently holding on to here? Because true love and true authenticity doesn't hurt. It is your attachments and your conditioning that hurt. So I really sat with it. What is the conditioning that I have here? What is the attachment that I have here? And then little by little breaking free from those things, and little by little like feeling it, until there was a moment where I was like, okay, I'm letting these go. I'm giving it to God and giving it to God. And for me, like, then it's just a matter of expressing. Like, I wrote a lot of poetry. I wrote a lot, I finished a lot of creations that I was working on. So that it just gets channeled into something, because it is power, right? It's a lot of power in that, until there's a deeper level of surrender. And I think all in all, that took me a few days. Like, it wasn't an instant thing. This one was a hard one. It took me a few days, but it is like this process of really becoming aware. And I think the first step is really to become aware of where you're actually running away from it, where you're actually going into the stories, or where you're trying to numb it. And if that comes up, that is a sign to actually go a little deeper and feel like, what is it actually that wants to be seen? And then through that, surrender and give it back to God, and use it in your creation process, because that's really how I look at it. That is why it shows up, to create yet another form of expression of yourself into the world. Like, why else would you have it in your life, really? Something wants to be expressed through that, right?
I love that. I love that. I'm a trained ballet dancer. That's my history. Just before this, I went to a ballet class, which is why my hair is in a bun. And I was thinking about that in ballet, because ballet can be very painful. Like my calves were like, it was a really intense class. I could barely breathe. I wanted to vomit a few times. Like, it was really intense. And I was feeling that what you said about how can I turn this pain into artistry? Like, how can I find the God moments in the way that the piano keys change, and then use the pain in my legs to move me and create art that will eventually benefit the world somehow, even just a little bit, right? So it's, rather than, I think what happens a lot is that we hit pain, and then we allow it to become us or the thing, right? So it would have been easy for me to sit down in ballet and been like, my calf is cramping up, I can't move, right? Like, I'm going to sit down, and then I will become the injured dancer.
Yeah.
Right. Versus this allowance of like, oh, the pain is just going to move through me. And that's what I hear that you did, was you had this kind of witness consciousness in your being, and you watched it move through you.
Yeah.
Which is, and everyone watching is probably like, well, how do we do that? How do we do that? Because that's ultimately what peace is, right? To find, I mean, and I've even gotten to the point where I'm finding pleasure in pain sometimes, right? Like, where I'm like, oh, this cry is like an orgasm. It's so good, right? Sometimes it's so good. So everyone on, I know they're all going, how? So what can you give them, if anything, to support the hows in the world?
I think one of the first things, I love what you said, by the way, because I enjoy my cries. I enjoy the nostalgic. I enjoy even grief. Like even that can, because it's so deep. It's like, oh, it makes me feel alive. I'm a human being. Like where else am I gonna? I mean, if you want to live in God's state, we wouldn't have incarnated in these bodies, right? So there's also something to experience in these bodies. So I feel that is something so deeply human that I actually can enjoy to have the whole experience, even though it's fucking painful when you're in it. But there's what you said, I think that is the key, is to put yourself in the observer perspective. You're always the director and the actor in the movie. And I think the thing is that we tend to attach too much with the actor. So we go really into acting. But then every now and then, I think it is very healthy to have the observer perspective, to go through, look at your life and be like, okay, I can do this. I am going through this. I also know it's not going to last forever. It's never lasted forever. There's always going to be an up after a down. So I can, like that's just the way it's always been. So I know that. So calm your mind down in that sense. And really try to see it from the observer perspective. Really know that the more you've actually like are able to switch from actor to director kind of thing, like observer versus, like being really in the flesh, and you start to alternate that, it also makes it easier to move through the pain because you don't have to attach with it. You can sometimes be like, oh, okay, that was a big wave of pain. Okay, now I'm just gonna like take a break.
Yes.
Take a little bit of a, zoom it out, put it into perspective, and then back again. And then little by little, it starts to, loosen up, and these waves start to come and go. And it starts to just, it becomes more of a, well, for me, it becomes more of a lessening experience of the pain. And then the peace and surrender aspect can come in easier. And I think it's really beautiful to take that moment to observe yourself, to observe and be compassionate for what you're going through.
I love what you said about surrender. So could you speak more to the distinction between creating a reality, being the director, right, and surrender? Because I think a lot of people go deeply into creating their reality and lose the surrender, like deeply into surrender, and then they live at home with their mom at 40, right? So like, what are we, can you speak to that distinction a little bit? Because I can feel the audience going, give us what you got.
I think this is such a beautiful topic because I've gone most into almost the creating your reality, and everything can be created. And I believe that. I fully believe that. Like thoughts, emotions, everything can be created. And sometimes it's also just being like simultaneously being fucking open to the miracles that you hadn't imagined yet. So you might have an idea of what you want to create and what it wants to look like, but at the same time, in order to let that become the reality, you have to surrender. And you need to be open for the miracles that are still coming your way that you hadn't even thought of. So I keep being like, I love to live my life in a constant state of awe, like being like, okay, I know I've created that. I've visioned it. I've journaled on it. It's coming my way. There's no other way. Like it's there in the field, like,
yeah.
And I don't know, like there might be something better out there. And I might surrender to, like, if it really feels good to take this route now and do this thing, who am I to say to God, oh no, that's not what you should have done, God? Like who am I to know the route? So it is kind of this complete utter trust and faith that when something is in alignment and I have said it, spoken it, written it, seen it, it is my reality. And at a certain point, also the surrender of being surprised by what life can also give you, and that you don't know the how part. It's not necessarily about knowing the how. It's just about saying, okay, this is my purpose. This is what I'm living here. This is what I want to share with the world. This is what I envision. This is what I create. And yes, there's action involved, but it's not necessarily up to you to know the exact how of how it's going to play into reality. That's at least how I don't know if that makes it a little bit.
Yeah. It's holding the end of the movie, but not controlling the script, right? And the same concept. Could you speak to the people? There are probably a few people watching that don't know why they're here, their vision, their mission, right? So maybe you could speak a little bit about how you found yours, how that dropped in, so that we could get a little bit of a concrete example here for them.
Yeah. Oh, I love to speak on this topic because I always thought that I knew. And then looking back, I had no idea until it all came back into place. And I was like, oh, I did actually know. But there was a huge middle piece where I didn't know that I knew, if that makes sense.
It does. I get it. Explain it for everyone else, though, please.
So there was a middle piece where there was the confusion, where it was like the trying to figure it out. It was like, oh my God, what am I here to do? All of those things. And that middle piece was absolutely crucial in order to actually, what I said before, surrender to actually what is underneath. I actually do believe that everyone already knows. Everyone already knows. Deep down, you know. Deep down, there's one thing that it's always been about for you. Deep down, there's one thing, or, like that big thing that it's always been about. But there is a crucial piece in finding that one thing, and that is the confusion state. And I actually loved that state. It wasn't fun to be in it, but now that I look back, it was a crucial state because that confusion state was absolutely crucial for me to let go of all the things that I thought I needed to do, that I thought was me, but they all had to crumble. They all had to fall away. They all had to crumble. And then the thing that actually is my life's work and my purpose actually came, to the surface again. And I was like, oh yeah, I've already known. I've always known this. Like, this has been always the thing for me. But it's been a confusion period that was very necessary for me to like stop the mind from trying to make stories about it and to really tap into that deeper purpose that was within me, within my body, within my soul. So I would say to people that are going through this, like, just check with yourself, like, where are you still trying to figure it out? Where are you still trying to attach to, well, maybe it should be, or it should be this, or also look at your language around these things, right? And where do you like even have a little bit of a spark or an inkling of like, this is actually what it's always been about, but you're not really daring to listen to it yet. And if you have a little bit of that voice, just start listening to that voice a little bit more. Just be silent with that and just start listening a little bit more, and maybe a little bit more. And then maybe the voice becomes louder and louder. And then, like, it becomes clearer. But you first need to create the space for it to become clear. And in order to do that, we sometimes just have to go through a confusion state where our mind wants to grab onto things until the point is that it cannot anymore, and you just have to fall back into the silence, and that's when the knowing actually usually appears.
I love that. So many juicy nuggets from that last piece. What I hear you saying and what I can feel from your energy is that if you're in a space of not knowing, it feels like what you're kind of insinuating is like, jump into that anyway. Like, be in it. Because what I see a lot of is hesitation of like, I got to figure it out. It's not, we can't figure it out from the mind, can we?
No, not anymore.
Right? The visions appear when we're silent, when there's blank, when there's empty space. So allowing ourselves to jump into all the places that may be wrong, which they aren't really wrong because we had to do it for it to fall away, right? And release the notion that you're wasting anything, time, energy. Just be in it. Like, be whatever you're in, be in it. And then if it's not right, because again, that's that faith and trust. And I love that you're pointing towards that. That's so beautiful. I
think that's this really beautiful piece that I'm noticing more and more. Like, because we cannot really follow the mind anymore, we're really being forced now as humanity in general to trust ourselves and our own intuition. And that is the piece that's going to guide you. That's our GPS, that's our guidance system. And we just have to learn to listen to that voice again. But the good news is that everyone has it. That's the good news.
It's already there.
It's already there. Built in, you know.
Right. Yeah. So you're saying this is the new consciousness that's emerging, that's being asked to emerge. Speak more on that. This is exciting.
Well, yeah, I feel that we're really moving to a period where leadership is going to come from the heart, right? Like we're really moving more and more from the heart-centered consciousness in a way. That's also what sustainability is like for me, is like we're moving from a place of infinite energy, and that is also always coming from the heart. I can give a bit of a scientific explanation about it. Joe Dispenza speaking about this, but in general, it means really living and leading from the heart more. And that's a shift that we're currently in. Like we're coming from this place of like really rationalizing everything, and there's nothing wrong with reason. I don't want to say there's anything wrong with reason, but there is like a leadership that is emerging in our new consciousness that's leading more from a place of from the heart, from connection, compassion, empathy, and realizing that we're really all are doing this together, and we're connected together, and everyone is absolutely unique, like absolutely unique. There's no one in this world who has your perspective on the world, who has your view on the world, who has your design, your blueprint, your purpose. No one, absolutely no one. And we're each individually making these fractals and groups and coming together and bringing in this new consciousness because we're connecting with the heart. And that's really what I feel like when we connected. I felt like a heart connection. Like it was like, oh yeah, I know you. Like it was just
right.
Yeah.
Right. And
well, there you are.
Yeah, right. Oh, I got this vision. I was sitting in the bathtub on Sunday with my partner, and I did the thing that I do, which is crazy Kundalini shaking and floating out into the universe. And I had this vision of which I'd gotten over and over again, of all of us together as one. And it was like this horizon line. And then all of us breaking out into human form, with each of us a different assignment, right? And all of our assignments, what the assignment does is they're all meant to bring us closer back to that original one.
Yeah.
And I just kept seeing it. It was like, do, 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 do. And I was like, yeah, duh. Right? Like, that's it.
Yeah.
And so to say that you don't have a mission or you don't have a purpose is actually just kind of bypassing who you actually are, right? The truth of who you are.
Yeah, it's a little bit arrogant, basically, because you're basically saying, well, so yeah, I'm not, God worked for everybody else, but not for me.
Right. Right.
Like
right.
Everybody, like we're all here with that unique mission and purpose, and trust that becomes clear. Like really trust that becomes clear. And I love that vision that you have, because I feel like we're all, like I think of it in terms of a play. Like we're all on a stage and we're all in the right positions, and then we're like, oh yeah, well, okay, we're doing that with that person now, and now doing that with that person. Okay, great.
That's it. Right. Right. That's it. It's so fun. That's how fun life gets to be, right? So that when pain comes into the play, like when you're watching Hamlet and pain comes in, you go, oh, fascinating. Here's some deep emotion. And that's it. Wow. Oh, they're experiencing deep emotion. Ooh, right. That's but we know that it's going to move again because we're watching the play. So, so poignant, so much yummy stuff in here. Is there anything feeling really like at the tip of your heart that you want to speak into the space before we close up? This was so meaty, so much goodness.
Well, I just want to say, like, to summarize it, that it's every experience that we have in life is just a beautiful experience that's absolutely perfect. Like every experience, also on a planetary level, because that's sometimes what that's what I'm speaking towards. I have a lot of people. My background is actually in sustainability, right? Like natural resource management, and that is what is now coming back into my life more and more. And so I have a lot of people that are speaking about the state of the planet and like what's happening and the worries and all of those things. But it's a little bit, the planet is going through these shifts that we are each individually going through as well. Like we're going through a huge transformation individually of like things that we need to let go of and like some pain that is moving through. But it's all bringing us closer in that whole game to experiencing the one, or experiencing, you know, that vision that you just said. So I really feel that everything in that sense is absolutely perfect the way it's happening, and to enjoy that and to see the perfection in it. Yeah, I hope that gives some relief to people. It definitely did for me. So.
Yeah, it's good. It's really good. Awesome. Well, Susan and I want to thank you so much. This was a beautiful, beautiful play that we got to do together. A great scene in the play of life. And
I know.
Great scene cut. And for all of you that came on late, I want to remind you guys about the online event coming up on Monday, the 25th at 2 p.m. called Fuck Me Open to God. It's everything that we're talking about. We're going to be doing it on a body level. So it's that surrender, that guidance, that inner flow, that connecting to your heart. It's embodiment work online. We have 10 spots left, and I'll post the link below, totally free. So that's on Monday, and you'll get the recording if you miss it. Don't worry. And for people to reach out to you, are you taking private clients right now?
I am, yes.
Okay.
I have a couple of spots left. So
okay, great. So should they go through Facebook?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So you're tagged in the videos. People can get in touch with you easy. Highly recommend working with this human. Very recommend it. You're resonating in an awesome space. So thank you so much for being on. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to more scenes together.
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, bye, honey.
Bye.